Season 1 of Andor took Star Wars to an entirely new realm when it comes to storytelling and depth in its world. And Season 2 is stepping things up, bringing what seems like the darkest story to the screen since Order 66. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, the TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
Andor Season 2 is coming very soon. I want to first off jump into what we've thought so far about what we've seen so far on Andor Season 2. We've been brought out of hibernation
truly
to cover Andor. We took a little bit of a break to just kind of like chill out, hang out. It's kind of a slow season for Star Wars, and all the things that were coming out were quite negative. So instead of just hopping on the negativity bandwagon, we're bringing it back with some fun thoughts on Andor Season 2. Hello there. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink. If you're going to Star Wars Celebration Tokyo, we will have a panel live on stage talking about Star Wars video games and their impact on lore. Check it out. Details are on the screen now. Would love to see you there. What do you think so far?
Oh man, it looks bigger and badder than ever. Seems like we're still following our regular cast and crew and finally making some of those Rogue One connections.
Yes.
Yay. Man, no, it's hard to comprehend. I think it's even just in what previews we've gotten, it just feels huge. Like, it just feels like such a big undertaking, and it really looks like they're gonna pull it off. I'm excited.
Tony Gilroy has talked a lot about Andor and Andor Season 2. He said, looking back on Andor Season 1, that it was very much the pacing of it and the entire story was around creating Andor, Cassian Andor, as this rebellion figure, of making him radicalized against the Empire, of someone who wanted to go under the radar, of someone who wanted to just stay in his lane, keep his head down, and the course of the galaxy and what happens and kind of like the I don't know, the dominoes falling as they did really kicked him off to this point. And now that we've gotten to this point, it's time to see the time frames jumping through the last 4 years before we get to Rogue One. When Andor started, it was 5 years before Rogue One. The last 3-episode arc is going to be leading up directly into Rogue One.
Wow.
And this is really exciting. I'm very excited about it. This is going to be something that I think is really going to change how a lot of people perceive Star Wars. Already, I mean, the first trailer that they had was them just saying, guys, can you believe it? We made a good show. Look at these people. Like, they actually like a Star Wars show. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. I think it is also very indicative of how little Disney knows about how to market its shows in terms of like, oh crap, wait, we did something? It wasn't based off of nostalgia?
Yeah.
What? How do we market this? We've never seen reviews like these before. I also love just the fact that in every single bit of them, like that trailer in and of itself, the first one, and then following that, the special look that goes behind the details of the second season, they're like, yeah, we're just taking this more seriously than anyone else has. The level, the scale, the storytelling, all of the stuff, we're doing it better than anyone else has. And by saying that, they're also saying like, yeah, those stuff kind of sucked, right? Which I just find really funny. It's also very reinforcing because Andor is my favorite Star Wars.
Yeah.
So the fact that they are really just like putting it the stake in the ground of like, this is Star Wars. Tony Gilroy has a specific quote that says, that's been our attitude all the way through, not to be cynical and to take it more seriously than anyone ever took it. Even while we're changing, some people feel as though it's changing a lot, but even while we're changing the grammar of what you can do, we're trying very rigorously to be more serious about this than anyone has ever been. So great. I love how self-aware he is.
Yeah, what a guy. I feel like everything that they did, especially in that first preview was so anti-Disney. Like everything was like, we're not about that. Yeah. This is this.
If you think you know Star Wars and you've tuned out of Star Wars, don't for this one.
Yep.
I do find it interesting that the schedule that they're doing on this is it's going to be done in 4 weeks. Each week we're going to get 3 episodes. It's basically we're getting a movie a week.
Yeah.
And that's not an exaggeration. We're getting an entire 1-year period in the Andor timeline every single week. And I think it's the wrong move. I think it's going to bury Andor in a way that I just don't think is going to be conducive to that. And that's not outside of me I would love to have more content to cover more consistently. Like 12 weeks would be awesome. We've got content for every podcast episode. Outside of the somewhat professional perspective of that, I just think as episodes go on, as episodes are getting released weekly, as we've seen with shows like, I think really Severance is the core example of a show that was released, critically did very well, numbers wise was okay, and then the second season releasing weekly, they've gotten that momentum, they've gotten people going back to that first season, and now people are going crazy. It's surpassed Ted Lasso as the #1 most viewed Apple TV show. And I think Disney Plus going with a 4-week schedule really is going to really hinder the viewership of this. Nothing to say about the quality or anything. I just hope that enough people get the opportunity to see this that should be seeing this.
Yeah, I think part of what you're worried about is that because it's so short a time, the viewership isn't going to be able to build. Like there won't be as much talk, or at least not as much talk for as long, for people to be like,
talking about one episode in particular,
about?
You're
Right.
talking about all 3.
Right. It's
so
such
it also kind of blurs the.
It's also a much bigger commitment. Like in time. Normally people sit down at the end of the day and they're like, I just need a show before I go to bed. Like,
and to keep up and to not be spoiled, and you have to watch 3 episodes of a TV show each week.
Yeah.
Tony Gilroy said that was a Disney decision, not a him decision. And he jokingly said, think about the podcasters.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going to have to stay up late to watch all these things.
Think about us.
Yeah. So I do find that quite interesting that they went in that direction. But overall, like, I'm really excited about the stakes of Star Wars Andor season 2. I think there's so much that Andor has. And it was clearly shown in that first season that they can and they do take Star Wars in a serious direction. And they make sure that you understand the weight, you understand the social impact of starting rebellion from all aspects, from the top where you have Mon Mothma, to the radicalist of Luthen, to the everyday man of Cassian, to the everyday person of all of Cassian's friends and family on various planets, the impact that they're having as they're going through this galaxy. And then as we go through this show, also the effect and the impact that this rebellion is having across the years of how the rebellion is building their foundation, their army, their weaponry. Every single bit of this is just an avalanche. Literally just like one little mistake of Cassian Andor killing someone when he didn't have to. Or didn't need to, I should say. He had to in that moment to get out of that situation. All the way to the point where we get to Rogue One, where we get to the Death Star plans have been pushed forward across the line, and that is what leads to the Death Star getting destroyed and the Empire ultimately falling.
All because one dude had to escape.
Yep.
Accidentally killed a guard.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like no one else could have told this story but Tony Gilroy. You know, this is what a special piece that we get to witness.
It's truly incredible the amount of time that Tony Gilroy will have in Star Wars, the impact that he will have. Because 2 seasons of Andor equals 3 seasons of Mandalorian. Actually, more than 3 seasons, because I think one of the seasons was 7 episodes.
Whoa.
This man single-handedly, with 2 seasons, has done more benefit to Star Wars than 3 seasons of Mandalorian.
Oh my gosh. That's hard to wrap my brain around.
Isn't that crazy? 12 episodes times 2, 24, 8 times 3. But I think it was either season 2 or season 3. I think only had like 7 episodes. So single-handedly, I don't think if you were giving this idea to anyone else, not Dave Filoni, not Jon Favreau, not Rian Johnson, not J.J. Abrams, not Colin Trevorrow, nobody else would be able to do what this show is doing the way that it's doing. That's really exciting. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, and I think that they're going to do something pretty epic.
Yeah.
Which is, it makes me very, happy, just as a viewer, as a fan of Star Wars, and then 2, very excited as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that this has been pushed through. I feel like there could have been, I feel like anyone else, and it probably would have been shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like he had a bone to pick and was like, I need this done.
Well,
so I am going to make it happen.
So many people that I talk to say, man, I'm not a fan of the sequels, but Rogue One. Disney Star Wars, I'm not a fan of, but Rogue One.
Fascinating.
Or I wasn't really into The Mandalorian, or I wasn't really into Ahsoka, or Book of Boba Fett really lost me. And then I say, hey, go watch Andor. I know you have these preconceived notions of what Star Wars on Disney Plus is, but please take the time and go watch Andor.
Yep.
And I got someone to go watch Andor, and they came back to me and they said, dude, you're right. I probably won't watch any more Mandalorian, but I will watch whatever Andor season 2 is.
Yeah, that's right.
So it is there. There is such an awesome thing that is being built with Andor, and I'm really excited about that. And I think one of it, too, is it not really shying away from the harder aspects of war. George Lucas has said many times in many different interviews, in many different ways, that Star Wars is full of different politics. It's full of political influence. It was a political statement against the Viet Cong, against imperialism, like against many things and aspects of both modern and historical aspects of war in many different flavors. And I feel like really good stories that take the time to make something meaningful resonate with people. And you can say, oh man, this is just not my jam, blah, blah, blah. It made me really angry because it's making me think of what this is happening right now. I've seen a lot more people go back to the prequels and look at a lot of the politics of the prequels and being like, man, George Lucas really knew what he was doing. Good gravy. If something says something, it has meaning to it. Tony Gilroy has said in many interviews more recently and historically that this is an opportunity for his part-time historian fascination of 2 a.m. researching sessions and going into like aspects from all the way from the Roman Empire to modern day war. How can you look at these things that are huge historical moments that have repetition throughout the centuries? How can we take those moments, bring it into Star Wars, and make something that actually resonates?
You feel it. You feel that history, even just in the first season.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, you know, I think that's what makes Andor so real, is that it is real. You know, like this isn't just... You
feel grounded. It has perspective. It has the depth. If you just see these super heroic moments with these characters that you do not think could die ever, like the Mandalorian with his Beskar armor, can stop lightsabers, the stakes get lessened, and the impact that you can have for perspective is so much less than someone who gets scared of a singular TIE fighter.
That's true.
That is real impact. And one of the biggest things that I think is going to be very impactful, and also kind of like, obviously when they wrote this was a while ago. When they had the ideas for this was a while ago. You could have pulled from any moment in history and brought up this idea. But the Gorman Massacre is something that he said they're going to be dedicated 5 episodes to, that this is one of the big underlying moments. And if you look at the start of any rebellion, any kind of movement, all throughout history, from various aspects and different perspectives, you have moments where something crosses the line. And for the rebellion in Star Wars, this moment of the Gorman Massacre, which is canon, hasn't really been fleshed out and is a little bit complicated, is going to be a core focus and a core reimagining of this moment from Legends. What the heck am I talking about? It's a super dark story. They're on the planet of Gorman, I think, or the Gorman's planet. What I can't remember what the exact planet was. But on this planet, you have a group of peaceful protesters that are trying to stop the trade tax and efforts, really tariffs, of this trade route. And the Gormans are trying to stop the Empire from taking over this planet and making it under heavy Empire control. Grand Moff Tarkin, instead of trying to clear it out, parks his massive starship on the platform that these people are peacefully protesting on, killing, I think, hundreds.
Oh my gosh.
Terrible moment in the history of Star Wars. This is one of the big focuses. This is the catalyst for the rebellion really taking impact across many planets. Because if you really look at it, the Empire for many planets is great. There's a reason why they were able to take control. It's because they treat certain very powerful planets very well. So you can control the message across the galaxy of like, oh, look, why would the rebellions are terrorists? Why should we support them? The Empire's pretty great. They give us lots of money. They treat our people really well. But if you're on one of these like resource dependent planets, like something that produces something that the Empire needs, that is when things change. And the Gorman Massacre is one of the big moments, one of the things that really pushes everyone in the galaxy over the edge. And that is one of the biggest parts. 5 of the 12 episodes, almost half of the episodes, will be dedicated to this moment in the Star Wars history.
That means it's going to be talked about for at least 2 of the years.
Yes.
Wow. That's big. That's huge.
And this is, I think this is going to be one of the darker stories that we've ever seen in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Because we obviously, Order 66 is something that has resounded across the eras in Star Wars. We have the impacts of Order 66 making waves throughout the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, and even now past that as we look at the Mandoverse time period. And you could probably argue the sequels as well. But I feel like this moment here is that final domino, the one to really clarify what is going on. And this is going to be such a dark moment. Tony Gilroy says, quote, "If I don't make you cry, I will be very unhappy." And I think this is going to be the moment. He also says there's a bit of confusion about the Gorman Massacre and what is the Gorman Massacre. There's a lot of confusion with canon, so it was an opportunity to rebuild in a really significant way. It's a very significant part of our show that can do a lot of different things for us. Quite honestly, it's a very expensive to build, so we really want to use it as much as possible so it carries over 5 different episodes. I'm really confident that the really deep, passionate Star Wars community will appreciate how we've straightened out that story. And this is an opportunity for them to really... We've always kind of joked about the stormtroopers and like the impact of this moment as kind of like being, oh man, how can they bumped his head? Their aim is terrible. I think this season is really going to showcase how despicable, evil, and just calloused the Empire is. This is the moment, and I feel like this and the discovery of the Death Star, all these things kind of lining up to where we get to the point where Cassian knows what he needs to do to make this successful, that there is a chance for them to defeat this. which ultimately leads to his demise, which is quite beautiful.
It
I
is.
feel we were going to have a really beautiful arc from Andor season 1 all the way to Rogue One.
Yeah.
I think that is going to be an amazing. Once this is all over and done, I think that's going to be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Depressing, sad, deep,
Yep.
but beautiful.
Stab you at the heart. I think this is really going to be a pretty impactful moment for Star Wars. Because if we're real, we've been asking for something dark. We've been asking for a dark side story. We've been asking for...
I want to see murder.
Yeah. For something with depth and grunge and a little ick, you know? Like, we're hankering for something more from Star Wars. Yeah. And all we've gotten is Order 66.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, that's a very sad moment. And it's a tragedy. That's what it is.
But they've been cashing that cow.
Yeah.
It's dry.
We've seen it. We've seen it a lot. We understand. And it's time for something new. And this is just pure innocence. Like,
this is a society that believes that they have a seat at the table, not realizing that their seat is actually at the kiddie table. This is
not even there.
This is a society that feels like they can peacefully protest and make an impact. This is a society where Mon Mothma in season 1 felt like she could make a difference from the inside. That's what the society is that we're at right now. Not realizing how deep and deeply corrupted that goes.
Yeah. I think it's going to be really, really good. As always, I mean, just from the first season of Andor, we realize, oh, the Empire can be scary. And I think this is going to take them to a whole new level where we're like, oh, this is depressing. Like, we have no fight. Like, how can you fight against this? I think that's where he's going to try and take us, so that when we get to Rogue One, we're hit with that. And we see it takes your life, you know, like it
literally takes everything.
Oh, it's gonna be so good.
What is it? I burn for a sunrise that I'll never see. That I think is going to be incredibly important as we go through season 2. I think that line in particular is what the rebellion and its foundation is really. Let us know your thoughts. Are you excited? What are you looking forward to most with Andor Season 2? Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact uplinkpodcast.com if you're listening to this wherever you find podcasts. As always, thank you for listening, and may the Force be with you.